So what at first glance is little more than a barely IP legal Goon -a-bait softcore Claire Redfield dress-up simulator, set dressed like a horror game, Unity asset flip, holds a surprisingly intriguing and, as far as I know, unique combat system where you pause real-time maneuvering, selecting actions from a old-school Final Fantasy-style command menu, limited by your current stamina and usually your ammunition clip. It's unique enough and progresses enough to keep the game going. The game manages to give you enough new goodies the more you explore, and new abilities to keep this system as a compact package. Somewhat ironically, I felt like the atmosphere of the game should have leaned into itself more. The locations are actually pretty memorable and kinda cool, but there's a sparse amount of plot and a even sparser amount of music. The later level design isn't really thought out too well, and I struggle to call this survival horror. It borrows survival horror systems, inventory management and limited inventory space, but the game does force you to fight in almost every encounter, and you can't run away. Also, costumes. So any replayability requires you to care for that and really enjoy its unique but rather limited combat system on a higher difficulty. Still, something about the singular playthrough I did, exploring the locations and finding the little hidden pockets of stuff, was really cool. It's a very nostalgic game. For a solo developer though, I really can't curse its ambition. I just feel like where the game lacks, mainly in payoff, it makes up for in nostalgia and charms, and really with things like this, you're here for the vibes. Like any survival horror offering worth its salt, the main enemy in this game is inevitably locked doors, more locked doors, optional locked doors, and puzzles. The puzzles are par for the course. They go from rudimentary to self-explanatory to just flat-out nonsensical, but fortunately, none of them really seem to hamper your progress. And like all survival horror protagonists before her, Ella, did not choose the locksmith career path, she chose the sexy lady career path. So those doors are going to be the main enemy throughout the game. All of it is necessarily branching path, but there is some secret areas that you don't necessarily have to see, but if you take the time to explore them, you will get weapon upgrades and modifiers and new weapons, and items that overall will help you out. It comes mostly through scattered notes, diaries, and environmental storytelling. Ella, our protagonist, who is basically Claire Redfield in all but name, gets summoned by her faceless brother Jacob to this creepy area in Maine, I think. He's working for a shady, small pharmaceutical company that discovered this eldritch plant called the Wicked Seed. Red flowers guarded by Native Americans and then buried by settlers and then dug up by the company for some rejuve drug program, which is supposedly restorative. It treats depression, all that, but it goes wrong. It turns people and animals into monsters and infest the area. And the monsters, they're never super clearly explained. Some burst from the ground, some seem to transform hosts. The whole zone is overrun, but the rustic farm area stays oddly safe. There is one friendly NPC guy who has no chin with a off-screen daughter, the hilarious facial animations all over this game when people talk, and the side stuff like getting insulin from a police station for some reason, which is the only location you can find insulin apparently for his kid, who you never meet, is a midpoint plot point. A lot feels cut or half explained. It's a tease mystery and none of it ever really fully pays off. There's little things like, finding items in the world increases your stats with its RPG system that didn't have to be in the game. The frustrations build, the shooting does drain your stamina, which also handles your moving and your dodging, so you're constantly managing 2 gauges instead of just your stamina, because your ammunition clips are limited, so you have to reload. The late game enemies do scale really hard, and it just turns fights into a matter of gauge management and area of effect spam rather than, skill. The parry windows are extremely inconsistent in the entire game, and the animations are wonky. The encounters do get kind of repetitive once the systems click. There's no real deep enemy variety to justify the bestiary. Her giving her snarky opinions on a diary in the bestiary that you can find. It's little touches of flair like that make the game charming instead of extremely basic. So this isn't really a survival horror game, it's an action RPG with horror trappings. I really like the rustic farmhouse, the optional cabins, the foggy coastal area, the smuggler tunnel, the creaky old manor, and eventually the lab. You know, the sewer to city transition is kind of cool, even if you only explore 2 streets. The daytime park visit, it's pointless, but I don't know, it's vibes. The police station is pure fan service. There is no reason for us to go to the police station for an insulin shot for a kid that we've never met, other than the developer wanted a police station in the game because it's in there in Resident Evil 2 and 3. But the blue lighting, the small town feel, I don't know, it's just vibes, right? It's the only way I can really put it. So there's a lot of fluff that they didn't need, the minigames, the flashbacks, the 50 plus costumes, but the effort is admirable. It's hot over extreme AAA polish. Not that AAA has any polish anymore, but you know what I mean. Wicked Seed isn't a scary horror game. It's not Silent Hill disturbing, and it's not Resident Evil tense. It's not Fatal Frame atmospheric. You know, the story is really derivative, the payoff is sparse, some areas and level design feel budget constrained. Maybe it needed more time in the oven, but it's not trying to be a poor man's Resident Evil engine clone. And I actually really laud it for that, even if that's what it looks like at first glance. Instead, it's an experimental mashup. It's kind of Parasite Eve combat with kind of Resident Evil exploration with kind of Dark Souls elements, but with limited resources. But it manages to spin all this into something, just again, pretty unique. For a solo developer, Dead Right Games / Ryan, it's impressive. It rewards exploration, it charms your sense of nostalgia. It's a very short playthrough. It's very basic, but it's kind of satisfying at times. In many ways, the journey of this game is more fun than the destination. Do I recommend it? If you're into old school survival horror vibes, you're a Parasite Eve fan, or you just want an ambitious indie that wears its influences on its sleeve proudly, then sure, give it a shot, why not? But set your expectations. This is a dessert, not a full main course. It's sweet throwback charm over deep scares or story. I'd say the best summary that I could give the game is we have a Parasite Eve Souls-like at home. Anyway, that's all for the review. Thanks for watching.